Good morning, Phil Guinois, Jack Deshane, and Micah Watkins with ENO, the Business Success Podcast number 6, February 26, 2024. So today, guys, let's talk about the insane roommate in our head. What does that mean?
Oh, you mean that chatter?
Yeah.
The incessant, non-stopping, 24/7 chatter?
Yeah, that's it.
It's going on right now.
Yeah, it never stops. It's there. Now, are we that?
Possibly. Probably not, though.
I mean, like, are we that voice?
Well, I'm not sure. We're hearing the voice. I know that. And who's hearing the voice?
No one else.
Yeah.
Nope, it's all in each person. They've got their own little chatterbox, like a friend or a roommate. And depending on the chatterbox, maybe a friend you don't want or a roommate you don't want.
So you mean it's like that neurotic roommate on the end of the couch that's, constantly just like eating pizza and slurping sodas and just drives you absolutely nuts, right? And at times, like, you're like, hey man, you're pretty cool. I like hanging out with you. And then he goes and does that again. You're like, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Problem with this roommate though is you can't actually evict them.
No. Well, they did create a way. It's called a lobotomy, and if you'll do that. It does actually shut the roommate down. The roommate is evicted, and you're done. We're done.
Yeah, there's also some other side effects to removing the roommate, right? And the so-called lobotomy, all that stuff. I mean, so how do people cope with dealing with that? And when they're listening to it, do they have the awareness that they're not it?
I would say most people know they are it. Or no, they believe they are it. They believe they are their thoughts.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do thoughts come from? How's that happen?
Well, it's the neurotic roommate. It's just kind of hanging out there and chirping in your ear. And you go, huh. So when I started doing this work, you're operating on what you would call it default, Jack.
Yeah, default.
It was just default, and then all of a sudden you become aware, like, well, what is that? It's not, it's the feelings that we're having, it's the thoughts that are coming into our head. Yet, I noticed the distinction. After going through some work, there was like, wait a second, I'm not those thoughts. Yet I'm still having those thoughts. Why?
They're tied to something that happened in the past.
Absolutely. Right? So, I did some thinking on this, and, this is why I think it's a great topic to be talking about today, because, I've gone through enough just experiences now where it's like, really start to think about this and analyze it. And so, I watch a lot of Instagram reels, right? That's the thing that people are, used to be YouTube and 5-minute long YouTubes, and our attention spans have shortened down to now just 30-second shorts. And, we'll see how much shorter they go from here, right? So, but these reels, you get these reels, and there's a couple of them where it's just like, the husband's driving, right? And then it's like, oh, I didn't know I get this passenger over here. And they're like, they're yelling, oh, there's car, stop. And then it pans over, and it's the wife that's freaking out. And then it pans back over to the road, and the stop sign's like 100 yards away. It's like, what are you freaking out about? Then I had the realization, like, oh, wait a second, that's the neurotic roommate that's up there in our heads. It's doing the same thing. Like, why is it yelling and screaming at me, though? So, if we go back to the couple driving, the husband's driving, yet the wife is the one that's scared. There's like fear around the fact that, oh, you're not going to stop in time. Oh, why?
Because they're not in control.
Exactly. Their hands are not on the wheel of the car. They have zero control, and that's their way of controlling it. So then when I stepped back from that, and then I was like, oh, holy smokes, wait a second. That's the same thing that's going on internally. Like those thoughts, those feelings, they are not in control. And they don't have their hands on the wheel. We're the drivers of our vehicle, right? And, you've got your hands on the wheel. It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm thinking of the movie right now. There was a movie where, and it very well might have been The Matrix, where it's just like, they're like, oh, no, he thought that he wasn't in control. And then all of a sudden they were like, no, the knife is in your hand or whatever. And he like looks down, oh, the knife's there. Like, holy smokes. Same thing. Like we're actually in control of the vehicle. I think a lot of people don't realize that their hands are actually on the wheel.
I would believe that's true.
Yeah, and they're just listening to that over there, and they're the ones directing traffic, yet they have no control, and their hands aren't on the wheel driving the car. The person is. So I started analyzing that. I was like, that might actually, like, when I started thinking about this in my head, that might actually get across to some people. When we start to break it down like that, hopefully, I mean, for you out there listening, maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't.
Right. Well, so if I have control of the wheel and I have somebody next to me that's freaking out, how's that going to affect me? Because I have control of the wheel, but they're freaking out. So what is that going to do?
Well, you have two options. Like you can either listen and, act neurotic and get on their same level, right? You can be like, oh, I'm just going to match the frequencies or match the thoughts or match the energy or match the emotions. Or you can understand that, well, you're dealing with that over there, yet, well, to safely get to point A, it might be better to drive this way. And almost ignore it.
Well, yeah, that would be the two options because actually the person in the car doing that is causing more danger than, like when I ride with people, I have no need for any control of what they're doing. I hold them capable of doing what they're doing, driving us around. Yet I do drive with people who don't do that, and they're... Watch that. Don't turn in that lane. Watch that car. Slow down. Get past this person. Turn over there. You shouldn't have got off the freeway. You should have took the freeway. You should have. And you're sitting there with them. That can become distracting. If I buy into that and I start getting distracted with that, well, then I'm going to be less effective in the driving that I'm doing that I do without anybody in the car all day long. Now, that's if I'm driving a car and there's another human. What if I'm just attempting to run my business? And it's not another human doing all that. It's that
neurotic roommate?
Yeah. The neurotic roommate, which appears to at times be a bipolar roommate. Like in one instance, it's propping me up like, hey, they shouldn't treat you like that. They don't know who you are. You're this or that. And you're like, yeah. And the next minute, they're like, you're a loser. How could you do that? So it's almost like they're bipolar. Like, I don't know which one's showing up today until, so what are we really doing in the work then with this roommate? Because I understand I'm not the roommate. I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the speaking. Somehow the work has figured a way to tame the roommate, to actually start to direct the roommate so that I want the roommate to be there, so that it's benefiting me. Like, could you get a roommate, or let's even not say roommate, if you're in business, could you get a business partner that's actually going to be in harmony? And
I don't know. Could you, Jack?
I think you can. I think you can get business partners that are in harmony. Yet, can you get a business partner where it's constant fighting? You could get a business partner where it's bipolar-ish. Sometimes you guys are working well together, and sometimes you're just butting heads and all that. So I think it's possible through this work that we do in ENO to create that perfect roommate in the head that's actually benefiting you, uplifting you, allows you to drive the car. There is no hijacking going on. There's no freaking out going on. So we can get to that place so we don't have to do the lobotomy part and just check out of existence. Yet if we don't quiet the roommate, what is the cost? When we're in business, because the roommate's the one who has the fear. The roommate's the one that's getting angry.
Well, I think a couple things. So, first of all, I think people think that quieting that roommate happens the first time, right?
Right.
It doesn't happen the first time. You've said this, Jack, is just be with it. Like, just accept that it's there. Be aware that it's there and give it the space, and eventually it begins to quiet down.
Yes.
Then at that point in time, you can begin to direct and shape the direction that you want it to go. There's an old saying, what you resist persists.
Yes.
So you have to be aware of it. You have to give it space for it and for you to just be comfortable with each other, right? Once you're comfortable, now you can begin to redirect it and utilize it in a way. And that roommate, whether it's the person in the car that's the backseat driver or the one in your head, there is value in listening to it for danger. However, that usually is a quick split second, like, am I in danger?
Right.
Driving the car down the road, they say something, watch out for this, watch out for that. It's a split second, right? I always say, and I've had this conversation with people close to me that are in the car, and I'm like, I haven't had an accident in like 20 years. Now, if I was having accidents all the time, then yeah, I think your comments, your concerns might be valid. However, you've ridden with me enough to know that I pay very close attention to what's happening on the road. So in the business side, the cost is, I think there's always a start and a stop to their business or wherever they're at. There's this start and stop. And then people, when that happens, I think by nature, they think that they've got to then be able to swing for the fences and hit a home run, from a stop, right? Instead of just that constant progress in their business. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree. Because it's not like a child or something where you could deal with the child and, deal in the world of cause and effect or consequences or, a potential consequence like, oh, you're misbehaving, so we're taking away your TV time, or you're going to go to bed early, or you're going to have to take a nap, or whatever. With the thing inside the head, what are you going to do with it? Well, what threats do you have to make it do what you want? There is none. There's nothing.
I think it probably has more threats against us than we have against it.
It's like, don't even try to mess with me. So there's nothing you can actually do to it except quit resisting it and then start to embrace it and give it space so that it can flail around a little bit. That's why if the person next to me and I'm driving and all that, for the 99% of the time, they can just keep saying what they want. I just hear it. You should have taken the freeway. You shouldn't have got off the freeway. Shouldn't have parked over here. You should have done that over there. Okay, so 99% of the time, I give that space. Like, I get it. Just like up in the head. I get it. You need to do this. You're not able to stop yourself. Just do what you need to do. You're not altering anything I'm doing. There's a lot of power in that. Like, I'm not changing anything because of your fear and your need to control anything. So I'm just going to do what I want. You just chatter away. And then there's that couple percent of time where you actually I know how to frickin' drive, man. Leave me alone. I've been driving I have never actually caused a frickin' accident in my entire time. I've been rear-ended 3 times. I've never actually caused the accident. Never actually driven. I drive completely safe. I go 5 miles over the speed limit. I use blinkers. I got the whole thing. I'm offensive. I'm like a football player on the offense. I drive around in offense. I see somebody in another lane and they're moving around a lot or whatever. I start, okay, what's going on? Do I got a drunkie over here? Do I just got somebody who doesn't know what they're doing? They're not paying attention. I've seen all that going on. As I get past them, they're on the phone. They're actually looking down on the phone going like this, and their car's doing this. So once in a while, you're gonna get hijacked by the little guy in the head, the little girl in the head. You're gonna get hijacked. Yet, if most of the time you can allow them to chatter and give them the space to do what they need, like a flailing little kid, the kid's over there flailing around. What do you do after a while? Let them flail. They'll just, what do we say? They'll burn themselves out. Eventually, they're just laying on the ground and they have no energy left. And you just stay on course, man. Yet, how many people are not able to do that in business and in sales and in their life and in their relationships? They're not able to stay on course. They get sucked in by the voice.
Well, and I think, your comment about the, driving, right? And you haven't had an accident, you've never caused one, and it's an awareness, right? Mm-hmm. So you're an offensive driver.
Yes, very much.
Not that you're offensive, but, you're on the offense, right?
I can be offensive.
And that really just boils down to a matter of being aware of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. What's left to you, what's right, what's in front, rear view mirror, right? It's the same skill set to deal with this neurotic roommate that we have in our head.
Yes.
Don't forget the blind spots.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that would be the key to mastery. What else do you have to really master? You need to master what's going on inside the head. And when you give space and you don't resist things, then there's a much greater opportunity to be in control of your life, to move your life forward. And we all hear it. I mean, you're in relationships, business, whether it's a client, somebody in your life or whatever. And there's times when you have to deal with what's going on out there, that there's a lot of fear, there's things going on. And can you just stay solid? It's like weathering the storm. Can you just keep moving through the storm inch by inch with all that going on around you? And there's people that I know in my life that are very effective at doing that. The results they have in life and the quality of life they have is way greater than the what we'd call maybe the masses that are asleep and just believing the chatter. Because when you get upset, how do you get upset? How does it happen? You don't just get upset, unless if you're just, you got a mental problem or something. You don't get upset. You get upset because something up there got upset. And maybe over something somebody said, or the deal fell through, or the wife or the husband or the kid or the whatever. But really, the only upsetness is up there, and it's telling you to be upset. Now, if I know that something that isn't me is telling me to be upset, well, then I can make a choice. Okay, you're telling me to be upset because that. All right, maybe I should. So I'm going to go with you on that one. Or you're telling me to be upset about that, and I look at it and go, no, that's not even worth it. And what are you upset about? Yet if I believe I am the thoughts, I'm not hearing them, I am them, well, then the minute it says you need to be upset, I'm just upset. There's no power in that.
Well, there's no, and then you give up all of your control.
Yes.
To it, and then how do you come back from that? And who's running your life, right? So now when we give up that power and that control to the chatter, and we say, oh, well, I am the chatter. Well, then, so who's shaping your life? It? Or the outside circumstances, the people in our lives out there? So now let's go back to the car. It's like, well, where are we going? I don't know. I'm just following the flow of traffic. Because you're going to allow them to dictate where you're going. So, the traffic's all getting off over at this exit. I guess I'm getting over here. Like, you have no sense of direction and you don't have any control.
Mm-hmm.
Is that effective? And is that how you want to live your life? I mean, most people would say, no, that is insane. Like, no, nobody would operate like that. No one would voluntarily be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm here in the car. I'm driving, yet I'm going to allow everyone else to dictate exactly where I'm going to go, when, how, where, what, all that stuff. Really? Yet that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, we just completed a course this weekend. And so I think this is why do we teach this inside of the Empowerment Networking organization to our members that are out there building their businesses and networking? Why do we bring this piece to what we do?
We bring this piece to what they do because your entire reality, existence, and life is all happening inside your mind. And if you don't have control of that, if that is not constructed in such a way for you to succeed and for you to be happy and have healthy relationships and take care of yourself and love yourself and honor yourself and have a positive impact on yourself and those around you, if you don't handle that, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can have an absolutely successful business and be a miserable person and treat people miserably and have a miserable life because you didn't handle that. So there's a lot of things out there that are promoted to people that are supposed to bring them happiness that you should be focused on, whether it's your makeup or your get some shots in your lips so they get huge or whatever you're attempting to do. Yet, how could there be anything more important to the human than mastering their own mind? What could possibly be more important? Seriously.
I am unable to think of any.
Yeah, because even the roommate's always chattering. If I am driving and somebody's doing that over there and I'm sitting there going, it's fine, do what you want to do, and I'm just driving, that's the roommate. The roommates are coming from the thought, or the thoughts are coming from the roommate. Well, then that's the roommate. Well, why is that? How did the roommate become that? Before this work, that roommate didn't live with me. There would have been a fight. As a matter of fact, I've already done this before. I've actually pulled off on the freeway to the shoulder and went, you know what? You drive. I'm not fucking doing this. I'm just not doing this. Get out of the car, slam the door, open their door, get over there. I'm not doing this. You're not going to sit there and keep telling me how to drive when I've been driving my... So that was the old roommate. So why is the roommate now talking to me that way? Or it's just like, it's cool. They just need to do this and it's okay. I love that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Just keep driving. So I say nothing. And I have no emotional charge whatsoever because the roommate now talks to me that way. Why? It's still doing it. I'm still hearing it. I'm actually following it. Like, I'm still not sure, like, whatever roommate it is, we're still following it. So if I master the mind, I master the roommate. And if you either master the mind or it masters you, I mean, it's going to be one or the other. How many times have we seen a child actually controlling the parent?
Oh, all the time.
All right. So the child's either going to control you, mommy, daddy, or you're going to control the child. Better watch what's going on here. because one or the other is going to happen. Well, it's the same thing with our mind. Either you're going to control it or it's going to control you. Which one? And if you look out at humanity, most of them are being controlled by the mind. And there are people in this world that know this very well. Very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic, and I'm curious to see what kind of feedback we get from, this conversation when people hear this online and, in the whatever space they hear this, right? Well, my biggest question would be like, well, what thoughts could come up for them, and does that get them thinking? So really, how do they become aware that there is a roommate, that they're not the voices in their head, the chatterbox, they're not that. How do they become aware?
Well, how would you become aware of anything? Like if I'm not aware, really not aware of accounting at all. Like I understand it's there. I don't know anything about it. So if I want to know, if I want to become aware of it, well, then I would need to go to somebody that is an expert at that, or I would have to start studying it. I'd have to go that route. That's what I mean. My life is a transformation based on the fact that at 31 years old, I started to go to people and sources of people that were experts at how to reframe your thinking, how to transform your life, things like that. I went to the sources, and that's what changed the roommate. That's what helped. I guess I put the roommate in there. So perhaps this past weekend, we had all those people sitting in there with their roommates, because the roommates were in the room as well. And they didn't get as much of this in achieving business and life success as they'll get into breakthrough. Yet it's powerful to understand how the roommate came about.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because if I know that, well, then I have a much better understanding of things.
Well, yesterday morning was a perfect example of that roommate in the room with the gentleman that went through the experience on Saturday night, and then was actually quite frustrated, quote, with himself. However, it was actually the roommate that he was frustrated with.
Yeah, he was just sitting in there. It was the voice telling him, do this, choose that, do this, choose that. And then he found out your roommate screwed you. Your roommate ran you down the wrong street. The roommate put you up the tunnel with no cheese. And that's what he was dealing with the next morning. He himself, this is why I said to myself, that's an interesting thought. I was thinking to myself, that's two people. I'm thinking to myself, there's two? Well, which one are you? And what's the other one? So I don't know what to tell humanity. You got to figure it out. If you figure this out, you will not be able to be manipulated. You won't fall into the fear. You create an entire different reality if you just start to understand that your roommate is a program. It's a programmed thing. That's all it is. It's not real.
Wait, you mean it doesn't have my best interest at heart all the time?
No, it's only a program. Just like what we talked about this weekend, breaking your word, breaking agreements, breaking promises, using the power of your word to hurt other people or yourself. And then, you start to realize in that work, well, you didn't come in here this way. You didn't enter the planet breaking your word or breaking promises, agreements, or making excuses or playing victim. You didn't come in here that way. You didn't come in here using your word on purpose to hurt another person, to threaten another person, to You never, when you got here, had any negative thoughts about yourself. You're too fat, you're too ugly, you're not good enough, you're not.
We were all too fat when we came into this place.
We were
right?
a little pud, but we were kitties. So you didn't come in here that way. That means it's a program. That's why when, at face value, when you tell somebody your identity isn't real, it sounds insane. How can that be? I have a driver's license. It says it right on there. This is who I am. And there's a picture of me. How can that be that my identity isn't real? And then you can break it down. The simplest breakdown is just simply, okay, well, when you were born, if your parents gave you to another couple because they couldn't raise you or whatever, they had a problem, and the other couple took you away 500 miles or whatever and named you something else and put you through all those experiences, well, then you wouldn't be you. You wouldn't be Micah. You'd be whatever they called you, and you would be a sum total of all the programming and all the experiences that you had had. So Micah wouldn't exist. And just based on that, right there, done, tells you that your identity is not a real thing. It's a programmed in thing. Now, say that to everybody, and then their programs will fire. There are going to be people whose programs are going to fire and go because based on their programming, they're going to say, yeah, but that's not true because the Almighty knows all things, knew your name before you got here, and knew you would be moved from these two over to these two to create you the way. So that's incorrect. Your identity is real, chosen by the Almighty. The flaw, the breakdown, the place where it all dissolves and has a problem is then the Almighty becomes the all-knowing that says, okay, here's another one is coming on in, and I'll put them with these two people so that identity stays solid, that I always knew the identity. But then you got to start looking at the people that have shown up on the planet. It breaks down pretty fast. Because how did that happen? At what point did the Almighty go, okay, baby Hitler? All right, a baby Hitler is going to end up with Mr. and Mrs. Evil. And I'll put that little baby with these two to create the Hitler person that's going to show up late. So when you start to actually question and look at things, then you'll find out, well, that probably doesn't make much sense. And that doesn't mean there's not an Almighty or a God. It just doesn't make any sense that something that created all of this stuff would be doing that stuff. Like, oh, no, I already know. I've got Jeffrey Dahmer on the way. I mean, what do you mean? It doesn't make sense. So then you break free from that and you find out, okay, so our identities aren't real, yet are they important?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, without them, how do you have any of this experience? So you got to have it. Like, some people don't like themselves. So they don't like their identity. Isn't that basically what they're saying? I don't like my identity. I don't like myself. And one person in particular like that, I told them one day, don't fret. You need your identity. I mean, they love their children. They love their friends. They love their grandchildren. If you don't have the identity, none of that can be there for you. You can't be the person. You can't be the parent to those children. You can't be the grandparent to those people. You can't be the person for that. You have to have the identity to create here. There's no other way. So it's not an issue of the identity's not real, so what are we supposed to do? Sit in a cave and not speak and grow a long beard and No, it's nothing like that. It's the identity is your tool to create here. Now, take a look at the identity. Is it what you want? Is it serving you the way you want? Is it getting you what you want? That's where we get to.
Well, and I think, you were talking about the creator, Jack, and, there's another piece to that, right? And that's free will, right? We were all given free will. And, as you do this work, your free will can go both ways, right? It can go down a dark path. It can go to an enlightened path. And I think your free will is tied to which respondent you're listening to. Are you listening to the respondent called the neurotic roommate, or are you getting the neurotic roommate to listen to the respondent, you?
And who are you? What is there? Without the language and the identity speaking, I'm not sure that the actual you does any of those things at all and is worried about language or controlled by language or anything like that. I think that isn't a human experience. And free will, it's an interesting thing because we're programmed and we come into the environment and we are programmed by other people. We get trapped into the programming. So are we really ever making any choices? Are we really ever making anything like that happen? Yet then we have the ability to transform. So in that moment, it looks like we can. And then why does somebody go into maybe dark, deep addiction and they're never able to come out and the other person can come out? Is there a place where the human at some level in the early years from 0 to 8, the trauma was so traumatic, they're never going to break it. And that's where free will becomes an interesting thing. Can they ever break it? I watched a documentary on serial killers, and all of them but one had a horrific childhood. Some of them way more than you can even almost comprehend. Being burnt by cigars, having their hand put on an open flame as punishment, being put in a cage, going to school and being tortured at school, and so much trauma happening that so then I'm like, where's the free will for this person? Is there a free will for that person? If they're traumatized, especially in the early years. When we get older and that trauma happens, maybe we'll go back into like a World War II or something, captured by other people, put in concentration camps and all those things. And then coming out of it is not going to be the same as the child. You're already older. You understand a lot of things. You're gonna, if you can get through it and move out of it, it's going to have an effect on you, but not like what's going to go on in that first 0 to 8. If that 0 to 8 is at a level of trauma to a certain degree that you're never going to escape it again, you're going to end up a serial killer or an absolute, drug addict or whatever, never escaping it, then was there free will at that point? All these things get deep because we, as humans, we just have concepts. We just throw them out there. And we just, that's it. And I think the power, we're always saying it in the room, it's not in the answer. Don't worry about the answer. Question beneath it. Even, and where do we hear free will? Usually, where does that come up? Other than a Rush song. That's a good Rush song, too. Where does it usually come up? It shows up in religion. Where did it really spring from, I'm thinking? Maybe from religion. This concept of free will comes from religion, yet then if you start to get underneath that and break that down, that starts to have some challenges too. Because I can tell my son, you have free will. But if you do that, you're gonna get the wrath of Khan. Well, I guess he still has free will, but not totally free. It's like, you have free will, yet if you do that, total destruction. Well, then do I really have free will? I guess I do to that degree. Then, I can pick the total destruction or I can pick the non-destruction. But that's where it gets. And then, is there free? Yeah, you have free will. But then in some of those stories, there's an actual force that's trying to, enter your world and destroy your world. And it's an invisible force. Like, holy crap. I have free will, yet this This thing's after me. I've heard people tell me this. It wasn't me. It was that thing. So it wasn't you. It was that thing.
Oh, you mean the neurotic roommate?
Oh, no. I'm talking about the horn guy.
Oh, yeah. Like, the horn guy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, okay, it wasn't me. The horn guy came after me and caused me to do this or to do that. That's what I mean for humanity. You're best off to question all things, and you don't need the answer. If you get down to it and you stop just believing stuff and you understand how your mind's done, it's really simple. You don't need answers. Everything breaks down to a 5-year-old simplicity. What makes you feel good? Is what you're doing benefiting you and the people around you? Is it good? Is it rolling good? Well, what else do you need if you've got that? The problem with it is the programming and the roommate that gets developed, because for the best of us, that roommate has the duality. So it's going to have both sides. It's going to have the uplifting, you're good, you're better than anyone. It'll do all that, and it'll slam you to the ground like a rag doll the next moment. So all the work does really is create a roommate with a certain dialogue and mindset. You're still hearing the roommate. It's just now, it's a good deal. Like my roommate talks, I still get it. It's like, dude, you're still programmed. You're just programmed with things like integrity and impeccability with word and win-win, and you're still programmed. You still wake up and it still says stuff. It's just not saying things that would get me into, we'll call, the bottom of the map of consciousness, into fear, guilt, shame, pride, anger. It's not doing that now. That's all. Yeah. It still wakes up. It still tells me things. It's just so, like I said, in the car, instead of pulling over the car and getting angry and doing all those things because they're interfering with me, it's just like, it's okay. They just need to do that, and it's okay.
So no more Flip Wilson? The devil made me do it?
No more of that. No more of that. And, I'm not saying there's no devil or whatever. I don't really know. I really don't know. If you were asking me, what do you think? I would tell you, I think that the word is the power. It creates all things. It creates our identity. It creates the reality. And if you look at the word, which would be language, well, geez, it's all in there. Both sides are in there. Love is in there. Hate is in there. Up is in there. Down is in there. Joy is in there. Pain is in there. Suffering's in there. Ecstasy's in there. It's all in there. So in that way, I'm not sure if it's an invisible Satan-y devil and a creator that way, or in the language, it's all sitting there for you. And you have come here for what? What did you come here for?
Well, to create, and that's what we do here.
Yes. So I guess this work, what are we leading them to? Why would they want to come in and do the work? Because we can either create from default the programming that happened between 0 and 8 that you really didn't have a choice of, or we can create on purpose. So that means we now take control of the mind. And what would you do? Like anything else that you want to learn. You wanted to learn to fly? Did you just go? Could you buy an airplane without being able to fly it? Can you do that?
You can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
You would not be able to fly it, but you could own it. Sure.
No,
why not?
You could fly it anyway. You might go to jail or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or die. Yet you could. Yet why would you go buy an airplane and then just, I don't want to go through all the instructions or understand I know how to drive a car. Don't worry about it. And you just jump in the plane and why would you do that? So that came out. That was a powerful thing. One of the people in the class this weekend asked some type of question that led to me telling him that. Like, I looked at him and said, well, I don't know. What do you do? And it was a financial planner. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about that. So if I want to know about that, I'm going to go to the person that knows about it. That's an expert in that. And then that's where I'm going to go. I'm only up here because I've been doing this for 20 years and I'm an expert at that. So if you want that, you just go to where that is and then you just get that and then you'll have that. But if you don't go anywhere and you don't get anything, well, then you're never getting out of default. Maybe slowly through life, maybe. And, you know, I have to say maybe now because I had a very, very intense program of jealousy, which I can track back to the 2 events that caused it. Like massive jealousy, right? Like I have to control the woman and she, you know, I have to super jealousy. Oh, now I lost the thought. Where was I at? I wanted to do this on this call too. I was like, I want you to lose your thought on this call.
Financial planner, go to an expert.
Yeah.
You're the expert.
Oh, yeah, and you had the jealousy.
Yeah, the jealousy. That's where I was going with this. Oh, well. If it comes back in, yeah. Oh, yeah, let's. There we go.
So, you know, it's interesting that you were talking about the duality of everything. And that's what we're experiencing here is the duality of it. So, and for you, Jack, I mean, you went through all of these experiences.
I remembered.
Perfect.
Okay. The jealousy. I always had a fantasy before I got into the work with the jealousy that you just got to get through until you get old and then it'd be gone. Because, you know, why would you be jealous at 60 or 70? You're old now. Nobody wants, you're not player anymore, right? Nobody's doing this stuff anymore. And I really thought that. I was like, cool. I guess I got to wait for that. Because I really didn't like the jealousy, I'll be honest. I would rather be a heroin addict. It was awful to be that jealous, that insanely jealous. And then I was doing a level 1, and a couple came in, and they were 75 years old, and they had met 5 years prior at 70. And we were going through the class. Everything was fine. And I was talking about mental freedom. And then the gentleman raised his hand, and he stood up, and I said, yeah. And he goes, well, how can I be mentally free when she gets jealous every time I look at another woman? And everybody in the room was like, huh? And then she popped up and went, oh, no. Tell him the truth. You don't just look, your tongue hangs out. Now, picture that. They're 75. So we have a room full of people about ready to hit the ground and roll laughing. But we're holding the laughter in, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. And I'm looking at him like, hey, look, I'm pretty sure you guys are safe. Nobody's coming to get you. But that hit me so hard. I was like, oh, my God. So if you didn't do this work and change that roommate, you could have rode the jealousy all the way to the grave. Can you imagine if I was acting like that and my girl's 75? Oh, where are you going now? Right? I can see your ankles. Why don't you cover the ankles of who you going to dinner with? Yeah. I couldn't even imagine it. And that's when I found out, oh, no, if you don't do something, it's going to ride out. The fear, the insecurity, the jealousy, whatever you got going, scarcity, whatever, it's going to ride out all the way to the end of the game. So if I was humanity out there, you don't have to come to ENO. Go somewhere. Go somewhere. Don't stay in default. And don't kid yourself. No matter where you're at, there's higher levels to go. There's higher levels of consciousness to reach no matter where we're at. I mean, still today, are we all still learning?
Absolutely.
Yeah, always.
You know,
All right. Anything else, Micah?
You know, I mean, do you want me to share the story that I tell? And I'll share what I shared Sunday morning, yesterday morning. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of ties into the duality of things. So, now I got to give credit where credit's due. I heard this from Steve Harvey, right?
Good deal.
I mean, it's there's something magical about being able to relate it down to an idea, a concept that most people can grasp, right? And so kudos to you, Steve Harvey, for breaking it down simplistically for people to understand. But it's like, when you want to watch TV, right? You get home from work, you sit down, you want to watch TV, and what do you have to do? You grab the remote, and if you press the power button, what do you expect to happen?
TV to come on.
TV comes on, right? And if you want to watch ESPN, and ESPN is channel 300, and you type in 300 and select, what do you expect to happen?
ESPN.
Absolutely. Boom. There it is. So our minds work in the same way, right? You know, there are certain things that have to happen. So let's break it down. Our brains are split into two halves. We live in a world of duality.
Yes.
Right? So we got positive and we've got negative. Right? And think of them as factories. And at the forefront of both factories, right, you got form and positive and you got form and negative. So you wake up, start your day, and you say, man, I'm not feeling myself today. I just, no. You know what? I don't even really want to deal with this traffic. And the people, man, I'm going to have to deal with this guy at work and, you know, Bob at the water cooler. He just irritates me. I know he's going to have some comment, right? And then so all of a sudden, like, we start having these thoughts, right? Well, it's form and negative comes to the forefront. He's like, hey, wait a second, boss. What did you just say? Well, I'm not feeling myself today. I don't want to go out and deal with the traffic, and I sure as hell don't want to deal with Bob at the water cooler, you know? And all of a sudden, form and negative says, hey, all right, boys, let's get to work. And all those million factory workers, they start creating thoughts to justify what you just said. If we look at it the opposite side, the duality of things, we can wake up and you say, man, what a beautiful day today. What an awesome day. I'm super excited to get out there and see what happens today. You know, it's like, yeah, I've got a car. Maybe it's not the car of my dreams, but at least I've got a car. And it's going to get me from point A to point B. It's going to get me to the job that if I keep working my job, I'm going to be able to save the money to get the car of my dreams. Or maybe the airplane, depending on your office.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, form and positive steps to the forefront and he says, wait a second, what did you say, boss? Well, I'm expecting some great things to happen today. And, you know, it's not I'm going to get in my car and go to work and all that. It's not the car of my dreams, but one day I'm going to have the car of my dreams. You know, it might not be the job that I really want today. However, I'm working towards the job that I really want to be at. And so form and positive steps to the forefront. He's like, all right, boys, let's get to work.
You heard him.
Let's get to work. And all of a sudden, those factory workers start creating thoughts to justify what you just said, to what you ordered at the top of the day. So you can either have thoughts coming from negative, and then all those thoughts that you created are going to, and your day tumbles, and it just stumbles and falls, and all of a sudden you're like, what a horrible day, right? But you ordered it at the top of the day. Or you could go over here, and you've got to master the thoughts, master the language, master the conversation that you're having with yourself and your neurotic roommate, or it masters you.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not going to be a bump in the road,
right,
in that positive, wonderful
absolutely.
Day, right? How you deal with it is completely different when you're in the positive side versus the negative side.
And that comes down to attitude.
Yep.
Attitude. You want to change your altitude, change the attitude. And so it's the attitude. You can have a negative attitude towards things, or you can have a positive attitude towards things. If you break it down simplistically like that, it's not that, you know, I'm just running around like I'm happy all the time. Da, 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 da. It doesn't work like that, right? But we can say, okay, well, let's look at it from the positive lens of thoughts that we can have. Empower ourselves with that as opposed to these unempowering thoughts that we can have. It's the choice. The choice to say, well, what do you want? How do you want to live your life? You can entertain those ineffective thoughts if you want. However, it's over here, the power is, you know, well, I want to uplift myself. I want to have empowering thoughts. I can complete things. I can do things. I can go and seek information to so I can effectively do whatever it is that I want to do in this world.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we'll wrap up with this because I think we're probably close to our time. Is as you develop this ability and skill, the highs and lows become less. And what I mean by that is you don't dip as low into the down and the negative and all that. You need them both, right? You need the high to understand the low. You need the low to understand the high. However, instead of having that high peak and low peak and valley and then a high peak and a low peak and whatnot, as you develop, and I forget the word that you actually used earlier in this, Jack, it more becomes like the waves of an ocean, right? And you're just moving along with the waves, and that allows you the ability to continue to make progress in any area of your life, all areas of your life, versus I'm at the top of the mountain today and tomorrow I'm at the bottom of the frickin' mountain.
That would be the issue between if I got to pick between negative thinking or positive thinking, then you would generally go to positive thinking. Yet you still have not reached the height. The heighten is neither one because of that. Because then you can get too high and then you get too low. What I would prefer to have is honest thinking about what's going on. I'm going to be way more level then. I'm going to have honest thinking about what's going on, and I give space for whatever's there, and then I just deal with whatever is there. So I'm not going high or low on anything. I'm honest about all things. So even I think Tony Robbins, we can wrap it up with that. He, in his personal power way back in the 80s, that's what he said. There was a problem with positive thinking. You just go, there's no weeds in my garden. There's no weeds in my garden. Because weeds are negative. So I'm not going to even say negative. No weed. In the meantime, the weeds are killing your garden. So that type of positive thinking really doesn't serve you at all. And negative thinking doesn't serve you. But honest thinking serves you very well. Oh, there's weeds in my garden. Weeds could kill my garden. I'm going to handle the weeds in the garden. That's it. And then you reach an entirely different level.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not realistic to constantly have positive thinking. It's just not
Yeah. It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like the waves of an ocean up and down and up and down. I used to have an employer that used to say, look, get me flatline. You need to be more flatline. Stop having these ups and lows and this and that and all that. And it's like, nobody's flatline. The flatline equals death. Am I correct? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we're either in growth or we're in decay. So the question is like, well, where do you want to come from? Well, I personally would like to be growing, right? That's all, right? So, if we, each, and you're still going to have that, your vision, I'm sliding my hand, here's the flat line, but really it's just, you're still having those ups and downs along there. It's just not as drastic.
Yeah. That's why Campbell, the Lions coach, this is what he's telling them. Whether you win or lose, don't go way up or way down. Stay pretty centered, pretty even. Of course, if you win, you're going to celebrate. You're going to go up a little bit. You won. If you lose, you're going to go down just a little bit, but don't go way either way. Don't go way out. So even though they won whatever they won, 12 games or 13 games this year, and then the ones they lost, they were not, and they would talk about it. The players would talk about it. Yeah, we had a win, and we celebrated for a few hours, and that's it. We're back to work. We're not going too high on it or too low. And the success is there when we do that. In business as well.
Yeah.
That's it, gentlemen.
All right. So for our guests out there, you can find us at ENOSuccess.com. Guys, next week we bring in our first ENO Mastermind member. Woohoo! And that's going to be financial planner Lauren Quinn.
Awesome.
Will be this next week. So we'll spend the first 30 minutes in our conversation and then bring her in and kind of chat as she melds right into the conversation with us and about her business.
Sounds like a good time.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Thanks.